Just wanted to touch base one more time in regards to some of the things I've been progressing on with my 1967 Camper Special build for my own personal vehicle. And just finished, kind of not completely finished, but have ran several of the brake lines and got the transmission cooler in here, and wanted to show what I did here. I'm running the Fat Fender Garage 10R80, 6R80 transmission cooler dash 8 AN fitting. Has a port for the derail transmission cooler, or just oil cooler in general. It's a port for the thermostat. I've got it there. I decided to run this one. I'll run a 90 version, and it kind of goes up and around. But I found these full flow 90s, and I think with the way I'm running my exhaust, this is going to work best. The only thing you have to really look out for is this lever that comes down here from the shift column, and then ties into here to allow this transmission to shift. Anyways, that's just something I'm gonna cross. I'm gonna cross that bridge hopefully in the next few weeks when I get this cab on this truck. But I ran the cooler lines up and over, and here is the cooler system I'm running. It's essentially the same one you can find on Fat Fender Garage. I sourced the parts myself separately. So I got the cooler from Summit Racing, and I think it's part number 15820 from Durrell. And then I am running the Fat Fender Garage frame mount here, and then an Earl's oil filter. And the 10R80s are notorious for running clutch particles just floating around in there, and the filter cleans up a lot of them but doesn't get all of them. So the temperature is coming out of the 10R80, which is here on the back, furthest to the back of the transmission. So the hot temp will come out of the transmission into the cooler, then out through the oil filter system, which will clean up a lot of the particles, and then back into the transmission. I think between the OEM Ford Motorsport transmission filter for the 10R80 and this derail cooler with the Earl's cooler system, I think, or the filter system, it'll work really good. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to touch base with, and of course, once the cab's on, I'm going to tie this up. There's a couple holes for the emergency brake cable on the bottom of the cab that hold this out of place. I'm going to attach that there as well with essentially a C-clamp. I showed in my last video this transmission shifter, but what I didn't show is how I was going to, since this motor and transmission sits differently than a stock Ford motor and tranny would sit in here, the stock or OEM shifter linkage that goes from the shift arm to the NP205 or Dana 24, whichever one you're running, that doesn't work. So I actually ended up sourcing through Speedway Motorsports a Panhard bar, and it's a 3/8 by 24 threaded. One's right threads, one's left threads, so you can adjust this lengthwise. And then I just did Heim joints, 3/8 by 24 Heim joints attached to this lower shift arm, and then of course to the transmission. And for my application, about 25 inches was perfect for that Panhard bar. And what's awesome about that Panhard bar from Speedway Motorsports is you can order it in 1/2-inch increments. I think any size you want. I started looking originally at 22-inch, and then when I kind of did some more calculations, I was thinking, up to 26 inches is probably going to be ideal for me. And so I sourced a 26-inch, and it worked just perfectly. There's not much adjustment unless I extend it, which that's fine. If I extend it, then it pushes this arm back and to more of an OEM spot. So right now it's in 2-wheel drive. It can shift, you know, to 4 low, 4 high, whatever you need. But anyways, so I did want to show that because I think that's an important add-on and just option if you're doing a Coyote swap or any kind of a motor swap. But using that Panhard bar for the shift link is just plenty strong, and it's aluminum, so it's not very heavy, but it's strong and it provides a lot of support. I just finished. I haven't quite tidied up the emergency brake cable because I can't until the cab's on, but I got the cable assemblies all in. Brakes are all in. Finished tightening the brake lines. I mounted the brake lines right there to the back of the axle support and tied to the block there, and just screwed it in. It sits in there nice and tight. I'm running all stainless steel brake lines. I got just a return fuel line to put in, but I need the cab on in order to do that. The last few things I need to do on this frame assembly is essentially the exhaust and then install the rear shocks. And then this thing will be ready to drop the cab on. I'm pretty excited. We're just about there, and I'm trying to get as much done as I can. I got some new polyurethane mounts here. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these or the rubber ones. The rubber ones provide a little bit more shock suspension there. Axle breathers are in, front and rear, brake lines, and I'm doing my own brake lines. The proportioning valve, which essentially is not, it's just a metering valve on these old Fords. I couldn't source one that was one that I liked that mounted to the frame in the correct position. Plus, I needed to have adjustment on my rear brakes. And so I'm putting this valve in, essentially a proportioning valve for the rear brakes, so I can dial them in. I'm running the Super Duty, hydraulic brake assembly that you can source from any Super Duty from, I think, 08 on. Actually 05 on. But anyways, the vacuum booster is a little big for this, and it would hit the Coyote. Sometimes you can adjust the brackets and make them fit, but I wanted to run the Super Duty master cylinder and with the Hydro Boost system. So I wanted the adjustable rear brakes so I can really dial in this brake, since this is going to be my daily driver. So I'm running -3 3/16 stainless line for the brake lines into this T here, and the -3 fitting will go on here up to the master cylinder for the front, and then down here for the rear into that proportioning valve for the back. It's gonna work great. But like I said, everything with this frame is essentially coming together. I got the O2 sensors sitting there. This thing's ready to rock and roll. I'm really excited to see what this thing looks like when it's all said and done. I'm not going to get to the paint this year on the 67. Essentially, I'm just going to drop it the way it is, the green truck, which I'll show you right now. I'm just going to drop it right on here, and I will fine-tune things at a later date. I am going to do the engine bay, so I'll get the inner fenders, radiator support, all the brackets on the inside of the engine bay, including the battery tray, sandblasted and powder coated. They're just, as I've said before in my videos, it makes it impervious to brake fluid and fuel and things like that. Things that I really don't want to ruin a good paint job. So this is going to go as is on the that frame, the 69 frame. So I'm excited to have this done. This one I'll just do a quick shop update. Essentially, I'm about to get to the point where I just cut out the cancer. There's no cancer at all on the driver's side. I have dug around in there, pulled the fuel tank out. That's the easiest way to see these cab corners, whether they're rotten at the bottom and or if it's visible from the underneath. It's not on that. That side is solid as can be. I took a screwdriver. I could not get any of the parts to poke through. The metal is solid. It is the thickness. I did a thickness gauge on it, and it's perfect. So for whatever reason, this passenger side is the one that rotted out. So I've got it all cut out. I got it with some zinc enriched primer, weld through primer, and tomorrow I'm going to be finishing up doing this cab corner, getting it kind of tied in there. A lot of people like to go all the way around. I had solid steel from here on, and so I only had a little rot right here in this corner. So I'm only doing the minimal amount just so I can replace this inner panel on the cab corner, and I get the full inner panel. I think it's from Carolina Classics. They're the only ones that sell the full kit for the inner panels for the cab corners of these trucks. So got that going. I'm using an AMD or Automotive Metal Direct cab corner piece right here that I'm going to put in there. I just kind of blasted this. I'm going to be rebuilding this 9-inch here anyways. I'm actually putting a 410 gear system with a locker in the rear because I am doing the QA1 full suspension system on this. No, they're not promoting me. This is not a sponsored video at all. I'm doing this on my own dime. I just want to get this thing dialed in for like potential autocross or just some cool, just extremely well handling, newer style suspension system on this old 1970 F100. And so anyways, so all this old's going to get cut out, and then of course the front is as well. I consider doing a Crown Vic swap. I'm not a huge fan of the width difference between the rear axle and the front Crown Vic. And yes, you can buy the A-arms that are shorter on the Crown Vic swap. But by the time you price everything together, you're doing coilovers, new brakes, new parts for the Crown Vic, of course, all the other odds and ends that need to be replaced, the A-arms, motor mounts for the Coyote and so forth. It is within a few $100s of doing the QA1 kit. And I got a heck of a deal after Thanksgiving on Black Friday with QA1. And so I bought the front and rear kit. It is literally sitting in the garage, and I am super excited about it. You'll have to excuse my mess, but here's a few of the parts for QA1. This is the rear suspension system. Comes in these 3 boxes here. And running a 13-inch Willwood front brakes out of the Camaro. That's what QA1 essentially bolts onto. So it's going to be a 5 and 4 3/4 bolt pattern front and rear. But I'm excited. And the front kit, again, excuse my mess, is sitting here. Kind of right through there. It's going to be a sweet setup, and I am beyond stoked for it. That's the one I'm going to be focusing on mostly. The 67 Camper Special is going on this frame, but it is winter time now in Washington, and the weather is just not holding out for me. I need to get that 1970 truck into the shop and this out. So I'm not entirely sure. It just depends on the holidays. We're getting close to Christmas. Timing wise, getting that 67 cab on here, bed on, whatnot, and getting this thing pushed outside so I can bring the 70 in here. Or I'm going to bring the 1970 into this spot over here. But this is a little tighter spot. It's not as easy to work on. Not entirely sure how I'm going to proceed with this. But again, just wanted to do a quick update. Hope all is well. I wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that. I'm going to do a couple more videos soon. When I do the cab swap, I'll be showing you that. as well as any work I do on that 1970 with the QA1 setup. I did decide, since the 67 Camper Special bed is really bad on that one side, it looked like it had been hit 2 or 3 times, and there's been a lot of body damage and body filler on it. And so I did decide to go ahead and shorten that 1970 F100 frame to a short bed, get a new short bed for that, and then I'm using the bed from that 70, which is a long bed, on this project truck. So, cheers. Hope all is well. Wanted to add this to this current video. I believe this is the CPP long bed to short bed frame kit. It comes with some very thick 3/8 gussets, essentially. Not gussets, but it's an internal plate that runs along the frame where you cut it right here. And it has markings to cut it right at 16 inches. And it bolts right up. It's super easy to install. I went with this kit for a couple of reasons. One, as you know, I'm doing the QA1 coilover full suspension system, front and rear, which uses plates that run along the frame all the way from the back, cut across where the C channel goes, right here above the Ford 9-inch. And then these plates come up and they bolt and they stop right about here at the exact dimple where these bolts from CPP kit to shorten this frame go right to. And so this stops here, these brackets, and then it has a support for the essentially to prevent axle wrap. And this support beam goes all the way across from right here, right in front where the bed mounts to, that hole there. There's a bracket that goes right here, and it relocates the parking brake system. And it goes all the way across. And so to have a connection, so this is all bolted with 3/8 grade 8 hardware to this 3/8 plate on the inside, which is much stronger than the actual OEM frame. So when you cut, you weld, you bolt that plate on the inside, get everything tightened up. There were several holes here in the frame just from the factory. I welded those up to the plate, plug weld. There's one more right here, which I'm considering welding up as well, but it's behind this bolt. Anyways, and it overlaps right here, and it has a very strong setup. And I use this because, again, the QA1 setup, having this cross brace or cross member that goes from here to that other side, strengthening the front of the frame that was cut to that 3/8 plate, drilling through it, bolting it nice and tight, then having that 3/8 plate go behind on the back side where it was cut, and then weld it all together. This thing is going to be more solid than it ever was from the factory, and I'm excited about it. So that's why I went with this kit instead of doing a Z notch on the frame. I felt this kit would actually add more rigidity to the QA1 system, and so that's why I went. And there's that inside plate right there. And there's plenty of videos online if you wanted to see how to do this. I considered making my own video, but in all reality, I used those videos that were already on YouTube in order to use this kit and install it. And it was very simple to do. It all has another bolt right here that can go in. I'm leaving it out for the time being until I get the QA1 kit in and make sure everything lines up just fine. And then the bed bolts in. So ultimately, that's what I wanted to show you all, is that frame shortening. It also has the rear frame on that CPP kit. It has templates to shorten the rear frame because it's got to be cut 4 inches in the back right there, and it has new holes for where the bumper brackets mount to. As you see, I have not finished this cab corner. I went to do that today and have run out of time before the holiday. Just things that we have planned with the family. So this is going to wait. I went ahead and self-etched prime the inside of the inner cab corner. And this is a weld through primer. I'll mount this plate up. I've already drilled the holes and mount this plate up. These holes here are for drainage. They're factory drain holes. Anyways, I'll put this plate up. I've got all the holes welded, but it's important that the inside of the frame, this part right here, you can't really get to once this inner cab corner is in. And then when the outer cab corner is in, if this is not all primed and coated, your rust issues are just going to continue. Same thing on this inner frame with the CPP kit that I used. Behind these 3/8 plates, I ground it all down, prepped all the metal surfaces, and then primered them with weld through primer. And this, anyways, this is super. It's protected on the inside of this plate as well as the inside of the frame, just to help prevent rust. Trying to build this right. This is going to be a daily driver build, or if you want to just buy it and run it on the autocross system, you can. I haven't decided fully if I'm going to turn this truck, but right now it's a fun kit, and I'm just going to have some fun with it. I got to finish prepping the rest of this frame, and get ready to cut all these old brackets off for the QA1 system. And then while I'm at it and while I'm in, I'm doing a whole new 4 9-inch kit. It'll have 411 with a locker in the back, and a Detroit locker, that is. And, of course, disc brake conversion kit and so on. And I'll get all new bearings and seals and get this all sealed up. But I'm really trying to get the rear completely done first. Then I'll move on to the front. But I hope you guys enjoy these videos. I'll attach this with this latest video. This is the 1970 F100 Sport Custom QA1 kit that I'm building. Cheers.